Do you know how you can tell if you have huge control issues? You need to be the one who drives. Now, I'm fine with the fact that many of us, like driving, but sometimes it's not about enjoying driving as much as it is, for some of us at least, about the need to drive. We find it extremely difficult to sit in the passenger seat or the back seat. We white-knuckle drive from those places and second-guess every turn and every weaving. And it's exhausting to live that way. But we think it's just easier than to go ahead and insist on driving. There are times we all have to let somebody else drive. And there are times that we have to be willing to give up control. Every time we let somebody drive, we are practicing letting go of control, which is an absolute essential of the spiritual life. To learn how to let go of control is an absolute essential of the spiritual life. The reason so many of us are paralyzed by the thought of death, paralyzed by even the thought of somebody we love dying or our own, is because that's one of those moments when we have zero ability to control. I remember when I was in about third grade, I went through a little bout of that. I was firmly convinced somehow in my little third grade mind that I would only pass a test if I drank out of a certain drinking fountain in the hallway, a certain drinking fountain of the hallway of our school. And I knew that if I drank out of that drinking fountain, I was going to get an A. And it worked. And so when we hear stories of the end times, like we do in this gospel today, and they're pretty graphic. The end times are pretty graphic at this point. This is the really last Sunday of the church year. Next Sunday is the Feast of Christ the King. And Mark is really getting into it here. In those days after that tribulation, so there's going to be tribulation, the sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light, the stars will be falling from the sky, and the powers in the heavens will be shaken. Everything will end. Each of our lives, the world, the universe, we know that now. There will be an end to it all. Those thoughts of endings, death, can be so frightening. These apocalyptic images represent for us all the things in life we cannot control. We want to be able to figure everything out. We want to be able to fix things. We want to know exactly what's going to happen, especially when we die. We're deathly afraid of flunking the test because we don't know exactly what to study, what's going to be asked. We don't know all that. We can't control all that. We want to land the plane ourselves. I have a good friend who was so scared of flying that every time the plane turned to the left, he would lean over to the right. And the opposite. He was always trying to control, to right this plane. He was a huge guy. That need to control clicks in when we're facing a breakup, which we all have at one time or another, I'm sure. When a relationship does not work out and it ends, and it's not of our choosing, then we do become kind of desperate about that, obsessive even, to make sense of this for ourselves, even though it does not all the way make sense even to the one who dumped us. Somehow we think understanding it all gives us power, some sense of control. So we hate not knowing or not understanding. A couple of weeks ago in the homily, I reflected on how bad we are at asking for help. And we need to get better at this, you and I. I want you to know that Jesus is ready and willing to take the wheel for you. But you have to let it. You have to ask for his help. He's willing to drive for you. He's willing to help you stay on the right road, but you have to trust. I mean, really trust him. When the sun and moon and stars fall from the sky for you, when you fail, when you're fired from your job, laid off, when you don't get chosen for something you really wanted, Jesus is leaning over and saying, let me drive for a while, please. Take note, my friends, Jesus is not going to take over control of your life against your will. You have to let him. You have to invite him. Jesus is not going to reach over and wrest that steering wheel from your control into his hands. He respects your human freedom too much for that. You have to let him. You have to invite him to lean over and take that wheel. I suspect each of us would be doing a lot better in our lives if we let him drive and stop wresting control of the steering wheel from him. It's time to let Jesus drive your life for a while. Give him permission to take charge. I wrote this homily in a place I often go to seek out when it's been my turn to let go. So I find myself gravitating almost unconsciously to this little lake just about 15, 20 minutes from here. And it's where I've gone for years when it was my turn to do some letting go. It seems to be a place, unlike that drinking fountain, where it's not going to be automatic. But as a matter of fact, I'll have to do some work there. But it's such a beautiful place. The water's so still, and it's so alone. I want to witness to you something about my own life. I had 2 huge letting goes this week. One happens every year, and that was the gala last night. And it went so incredibly well. It always does. As one of my friends chastises me when I start to worry, which worry is one of my triggers, he always says, Gary, we know a generous God. God is so into the CSC, he's not going to drop this mission. And it's always proven true, but needless to say, I keep giving him control of the wheel and taking it back and giving it. And the other is another letting go, but I do want you to know that this is good news, and it always strikes people as horrifying at first, but it really is good news for me and for him and for my family. But I mentioned to you my dad last Sunday, and this past week he died. But I don't need you to be horrified. I mean, he lived just short of a century of life. And this is what's supposed to happen. And it was beautiful. And I quite honestly don't have hardly barely this much sadness, but mostly gratitude and joy. And the way I framed it with my brother and sister-in-law sitting there alongside the bed was, this feels more like a graduation. I've been to a lot of graduations here, you know. And they're amazing. There's always a little bit of sadness at the letting go. And there's always a whole lot of gratitude and joy. And so my first words almost after he died were, congratulations, Dad. Almost a century of life. Congratulations. So what I want to witness to you this morning in this simple image of letting go of the wheel is something about my own life that I've been so much happier, so much more at peace, chipping away at my need for control over the years. And if you are somebody who has a need to control a lot of things or even people, it's really time to start working on this. It's really time to start gently with yourself, learning how to let go. And I hope you can see this. There's times when I don't, and it's not fun. But when I do, I'm so much more relaxed. I have so much more fun. And it won't be long before I learn how to fall asleep in the back seat or find myself enjoying that view so much more that I missed when I was white-knuckling the wheel. That's going to happen even more truly with Jesus at the wheel of our lives. Given my control issues over the years, I've had to learn to surrender again and again and let him drive. Sometimes it takes me too long to remember. And like I said, it doesn't hit me that it's time to get down on my knees until I feel the worry coming up inside of me. One of our grad students, prayed last night for me at the gala that I stop worrying. So much of our anxiety has much to do with our need to control, and so many of our futile attempts at remaining in control. We can only do so much, and we have to know when to say when. But it's not just our anxiety that goes sky high when we're faced with what we cannot control. So does our anger. We get so frustrated, so mad. Look what happens on the highway. You know what? You can't control how other people drive on the highway, right? Or how they live in the dorm room, the other half of your dorm room. Or the choices your spouse makes. So let's learn a little bit more about how to relax a little sooner than later and enjoy the view. And in our marriages and at work, at school, with our work at school, being parents to our kids, let's let go a little more, and I think we'll have a whole lot more fun in life. Jesus is saying to us, I really believe in this gospel. Let me drive for a while. I'll pay attention. I'll be careful. I promise. But I have to remind you, as good of a driver as I am, I can't control how other people drive. And perhaps our response could be something like, some words, I heard something like these in a song a long time ago. Jesus, take the wheel. I can't do this on my own. I want to let it go. I want to let it go. Give me one more chance. Save me from this road I'm on. Jesus, take the wheel.